Golden Child. Chapter 2. Colden bounced on his heels, tired of standing for so long while his father, Duke Colden I, was in a riveting discussion with his uncle, the King of Perry. His cousin, the crowned prince, was just as bored. The two adult men were debating how to provide sanctuary for magical creatures while ensuring those they let into the kingdom didn't pose any threats. That was an issue. Not every witch or wizard was bad, but it's hard to tell from looks alone. The Duke stroked his dark beard, which did not match the white hair on his head. His blue eyes scanned a map of Perry before he pointed to a district on the island. "We can make new housing areas here." The king scowled. "That area will not work, brother. I've promised those lands to current citizens. If Effa manages to restore its glory, then those people will not stay for long." "Yes, but not all will return. It's been a year, and these people have jumped from kingdom to kingdom without a home. King Edward has the matter under control. I say we keep assisting him and leave it at that. Besides, it never was our problem to begin with." Colden tapped his fingers on the table, wishing he could sit down without being lectured. He hated their squabbling but had learned to never get between them. His eyes drifted to his cousin. The 14-year-old, decked in a pale yellow and white robe, was twirling fire around his fingers. The boy wasn't capable of producing flames out of nowhere, so he no doubt stole the fire from the fireplace behind him. Then, his idiot of a cousin lost control of the flame, dropping it directly onto the map. Colden reacted quickly, forming a snowball from thin air and tossing it at the flame. However, when the snowball burst apart, its remains hit the king and his son. The arguments ceased as everyone looked at Colden. Before he could explain, his cousin spoke. "Colden, you'd better apologize to my father." Colden wanted to break his treacherous little cousin's spine, but he remained collected. The time for payback would come later. "I'm sorry, Your Majesty. A pest was on the map, and I only wanted to remove it." The Duke sighed. "So you threw a snowball at it?" "Yes," I said through gritted teeth, staring at the crowned prince. "It was a firebug." The king glanced at his son, connecting the dots. "I see. Well, we have kept you boys in here long enough. You may go. I suspect the King of Chana will be arriving soon anyway. Behave in the meantime." Colden and his cousin bowed before they left the study. Once the doors were closed and the king and duke could no longer see them, Colden reached for his cousin, but the boy had been expecting it. He dashed off, his stuffy robes dragging on the disgusting yellow carpet. Colden formed a snowball and threw it. However, the boy ducked and ran down another corridor. There was no way Colden was letting him get off that easy. He followed after, forming another snowball. He tossed it around the corner, only to hit a different target. The King of Chana's crown toppled off his head, and his face was wet from the melted snow. Colden winced, and behind the king, his cousin stuck his tongue out at him. The king flicked the water off his face and pointed at Colden. "Guards, teach that boy a lesson." The guards circling the king flew forward, revealing their hidden wings. Colden laughed shakily before forming his icy wings behind his back. He soared upward while the guards crashed into the wall, knocking over a vase. The pursuit continued, and Colden took it outside, flying through an open window. He scared the life out of a maid who had opened the window to beat out the dust from a carpet. As he took a glance back, the poor girl was frightened further when the guards followed after. While Colden had tried to be the dutiful son, it appeared he just had a knack for getting into trouble. He wished he could blame it on his cousin, but he knew it was his fault for whacking the King of Chana. He should have waited for his revenge. Yet, he was delighted as the chase continued. In an effort to distract the guards, he threw snowballs at them whenever he could. Of course, he knew his best bet was to hide somewhere. He thought about sailing through the streets, but that would only get him into further trouble. So, he flew away from the main island and dived into the clouds. Out of breath, he spotted a small, vacant island. It would do well for his last stand against the guards. About to land on the island, he turned to watch the sky above him. With his blue eyes still on the lookout, his feet touched the ground. He watched as the guards zoomed down to take a look. Colden waved his hands around, thinking it was all fun and games, as he stood in the open. Puzzlement rushed over him when the guards didn't spot him right away. He began to dance around and shout at them, but they all flew back to parry. What in the blazes? Are they deaf? He chuckled, then heard singing from above. Finally, he turned and jumped from shock. A tower stood before him, and he knew with certainty it hadn't been there before. A sweet song twisted down to him on a pleasant breeze. Then the tune went off-key as the vocalist couldn't quite reach the high note. The vocalist tried again but quickly moved the song along after another failed attempt. What did I just stumble into? Colden whispered, but then he shouted, "Hello? Is someone up there? Do you need a vocal coach?" Rapunzel, who was touching up her painting, stopped her singing and her brushwork. She rushed to the window and looked downward. A mortified gasp escaped her lips. "Oh," was all Colden could utter once he saw he had insulted a beautiful woman. Rapunzel glanced at the strange white-haired man before slamming the window shutters. Colden clicked his tongue and effortlessly flew up to the window. Inside, he heard Rapunzel fidgeting with the shutters. He smiled and pulled one of the shutters open, figuring she hadn't locked it yet. To his delight, it swung outward, revealing Rapunzel. She clumsily backed away into the wall where a sword was mounted. She turned around and grabbed it, pointing it at the Duke's son as he flew into the tower and landed. Colden held up his hands and said, "It's all right, fair maiden. I mean you no harm. I'm just in search of answers, that's all. You have a, lovely voice," and his eyes looked over at the painting she was redoing. "Did you paint that? Why are you covering it? It looks amazing as is." "Go away!" Rapunzel demanded. "I don't want to hurt anyone either, but you must leave." "Oh, come on. Did you or did you not paint that?" he asked, unbothered by the sword. He doubted she would actually use it on him. "What does it matter?" she said, "just leave, now. And don't tell anyone about this place. You never saw it." He laughed. "There's no way that's happening. I'm telling everyone about this place." "Are you a prisoner here?" "No," she screamed, both frustrated and flustered by the young man's presence. "Is that so? You appear human to me. What's a human doing up here in a tower with no way down? This seems like a prison." Seeing the young man really would go out and tell everyone, Rapunzel changed her mind about him leaving. She couldn't let him do that. The world couldn't know about her safe haven. She ran to the window and successfully locked it this time, putting the key in her apron pocket where she put her paintbrushes. "Then you'll have to be my prisoner until my mother returns. She'll know what to do." "Well then," he said, clapping his hands together. He couldn't believe the route his day had taken him. "We might as well get to know each other. My name is Colden II, son of Duke Colden I of Parry, but you can just call me Colden." "I don't know what any of that means," Rapunzel stated flatly, "but I presume you are a corrupt man like the rest of the world." Colden flicked his white bangs out of his face, having ruined his neat hairstyle during the chase. Meanwhile, Rapunzel scrutinized his looks. Everything about him, down to the golden flecks in his blue eyes, told her he was no good. His pressed white jacket told her he was rich, so she presumed he was a rotten nobleman her mother told her about. Corrupt? No, that would be my cousin, he said, coming closer to her. She raised the sword again. He didn't stop walking, though, as he pushed the blade away from his face. He studied her eyes. You don't know what to believe. Do you? Rapunzel put the sword down, seeing she couldn't harm him while he spoke so calmly. Stop doing that. I don't even get to answer half of your questions. Are you using magic to read my mind or something? Colden grinned. Indeed, but it's more of a skill I have on my own. So, no, I am not using magic to get inside your head. I'm only a frost fairy, so that's far beyond my expertise. Is that why your wings look like ice? She asked, staring at the wings on his back. Yes. As for mind reading, it's more about looking at your eyes. They tell me everything. Think about it. A smile is a smile, but the eyes always tell the truth. You have doubt in those pretty brown eyes of yours. Rapunzel glanced at the floor and moved away from Colden, uncomfortable that he could tell things about her by staring into her eyes. She didn't like it. Truth be told, she didn't want anyone telling her that she doubted Gothel and what she preached. She could never doubt her mother. She firmly believed her mother would never lie to her. Then Colden said, I know the story of that painting. Why would you change it? She froze, suddenly the one wanting to ask questions. You know the story? The whole story? She exclaimed. As he neared the painting, he let his wings disappear. Yes, but it's not just a story. It really happened not that long ago. A miller's daughter became a queen. She fell in love with the king of Amishi, but his advisor would only allow it if the girl spun straw into gold, which she couldn't do since it was only a boast her father made up. That's when an old man, a wizard, came along and... The wizard helped her, right? He looked over at her, confused. In a manner of speaking, yes. How else do you think she did it? Anyway, he made deals with her. The first time, he asked for a ring and then a necklace. And finally, she was forced to give up her firstborn child with the king. When that day came, the wizard toyed with them and said if they guessed his name, he would let them keep their child. Unfortunately for him, they found it and guessed it. He was never seen again. Rapunzel shook her head. No, it can't be real. It is just a story to turn people against wizards and witches. That's all. He probably said that so they could keep their child, not because he thought they would never guess his name. Colden chuckled. The man's name was Rumpelstiltskin. Do you think that's a name easily guessed? Surely you must know there's a reason why people hate wizards and witches. And the story doesn't end there. It doesn't? Rapunzel questioned, growing anxious as she sat down and dropped the sword. After the firstborn, they had a second child, a girl. One day, the girl vanished. The king blamed it on a witch, but no one knows whether it's true. After their first son, they were very protective. Most of the kingdom didn't even know they had a daughter. I only know because my father made me memorize every king and queen's names and life stories. And that woman is from Amishi? Colden knelt beside her, lifting a dark eyebrow. Yes, why do you want to know? Because it is important information. My mother refuses to talk about these stories, though I swear I have heard this story many times when I was younger. He leaned in closer, making Rapunzel lean back a little. What if I take you on a field trip? Something tells me you're dying to see the world. Do my eyes really tell you that much? She asked. He shook his head. Nah, just the books on your shelves are all about adventure. You can't get that stuck inside a tower. Rapunzel tried to find a way to get Colden to share more without leaving the tower. Her mother called her a golden girl, a golden child. Rapunzel didn't want to break that now because she was proud of the title. I'm afraid not, she said. Colden smiled, realizing she needed more convincing. What if I said I wouldn't tell anyone about this place, huh? Would you agree then? Think about it. Your mother wouldn't have to know I was here or that we even went anywhere. I don't trust you. I don't even know you. He stood. Your eyes tell a very different story. Yours scream that you're always up to no good, Rapunzel retorted. Trouble does seem to follow me, but I think you'll go with me anyway. You look like a bubble ready to explode from energy. Leaving this place is the one thing you've always wanted. And now you have a way out. He extended his hand to her. She took it, noting his skin was cool to the touch but swelled her insides. Never seeing the effect love had on people, besides in books and what Gothel told her, Rapunzel didn't know much about it. She stood with his help, then let go quickly, ashamed of herself. She couldn't fall in love with the first man she met. What would that say about her? Desperation, that's what. She walked over to the window and unlocked it, regretting every action she took. She never went against her mother like this. Hadn't she told Gothel she would be honest just the other day? Colden came up beside her, and they looked at the sky surrounding them outside of the tower. It was a beautiful view. Out of the blue, he asked, by the way, how did you manage to grow your hair out so long? I have a daily hair routine and trim it now and then. This is the furthest it has ever reached. My mother teases that I'm trying to grow it until it's the length of the tower so I can touch the grass. Can we perhaps braid it or something? It will make traveling a whole lot easier. And when exactly does your mom get back? She's going to be gone for 4 or 5 days, maybe more. He nodded. That should give us a fair amount of time. Oh, you never did give me your name. Rapunzel, she shared while wondering how she had become so trusting. This young man would undoubtedly destroy her dull life.